What's up, people? I'm back with another video. Uh, What's up? What's up, people? What's up, people? It's Jumpy again, back with another video. So today, what I got for y'all is 3 urban horror stories animated. It's something weak, since I know I haven't been in this channel making videos and all of that. So yeah, I'm just trying to not put that much work because I'm not trying to spend too much hours in making these videos, because I remember I used to spend the whole day making just one video, just trying to edit it, put the most edits in it when I'm not getting nothing from it. So, I'm not gonna do that again because that's too much. So, let's just go. I hope y'all can hear it good. It might be a little bit too loud. I think that's good.
This story happened a few weeks ago when my girlfriend and I wanted to celebrate our 2-year anniversary together. So, there was no better way to do it than to go on a short getaway, far from the busy city life we were used to. I searched for a few houses on Airbnb and settled on a big 3-story home on the outskirts of town resembling a cottage. It was the perfect place, and so I showed the photos to my girlfriend and she was on board with my selection. According to the app, the house was owned by an older gentleman that looked to be around his 60s. There was a brief set of rules that he put in the description stating that we could only access the bottom 2 floors, leaving the top floor off limits. My girlfriend and I didn't make a fuss about it as we were content with the price and what we saw in the photos. Nonetheless, we dropped by the following week. Like all the Airbnb check-ins, we took a brief tour of the house. Everything seemed as advertised in the photographs. The second floor was where we could find the bedroom and bathroom, while the bottom floor was where the kitchen, living room, and dining room was. Since there were only 2 of us anyway, this was worth it even though the door to the 3rd floor was locked. After all, having 2 floors to ourselves was more than enough. On the first night, we simply hung out and watched some television. I remember it being around 1 in the morning when we were just about to call it a night, but right as we were about to climb into bed, I could hear the sound of footsteps creaking somewhere beyond the living room.
Like, bro, they don't have no jobs. Like, it's just like if you really think about it, it does not sound realistic. Like you don't have a job, like you don't gotta sleep early or what. Like they just sound free. They just sound like this will never happen.
The sound seemed to be emanating from upstairs. I shook my head, unsure whether I was just hearing things, but when I turned to face my girlfriend, I could see that she heard it too. So, to put our minds at ease, I left my girlfriend in the living room as I headed upstairs to check where the sounds may have come from. I remembered hearing it again, but much more vivid. It seemed like the sounds were coming from the floor above me. I headed for the locked door on the 3rd floor, taking a deep breath as I walked through the pitch darkness. When I found the knob, I wrapped my fingers around it.
Yeah, no flashlight, no flashlight. Just you have a phone, but you're not gonna use it, and you're just gonna try to feel around to see where's the goddamn door. You know,
And began yanking it
totally
frantically. But
normal.
no matter what I did, it wouldn't budge. It was totally locked. What the hell are you hiding in here? I whispered to myself. Then, to my surprise, the footsteps immediately stopped. I knew I must
Behind
have
you.
scared off whoever
Oh.
it was up there. When I went back to my girlfriend and explained the ordeal, she instantly messaged the owner, alerting him about the strange noise. About a minute later, the owner responds, insisting that this happens all the time since there were a lot of raccoons in the area. So, to avoid ruining the special occasion, we decided to take his word and enjoy the rest of the night.
I buy the same products you do, only
Bro, a door, you don't. Oh,
I get them much cheaper. I save hundreds of dollars a month by doing this.
Following night,
you see, this so unrealistic. A door right there that does not open, and there's probably something inside. You're not. gonna try to open it. Make it make sense.
Night, we watched some TV again without any interference. This time, no
Dito
odd
ya.
sounds were coming from the third floor. However, as we flipped through the channels, a video of an empty room with night vision was displayed on the screen. At first, I thought it was just one of those reality shows, or perhaps a lame horror movie, so we quickly changed the channel after that. Now, we were watching a house from a first person's point of view, like the camera was near the doorbell. It got us thinking about how bizarre it was for some of these channels to share similar features to the home we were in. And that's when we started putting two and two together. We flipped through the channels again and were shocked to see surveillance camera footage all over the house. But the most appalling video of them all was an aerial view of the toilet. We couldn't tell if it was the same bathroom as ours, so I began recording with the camera on my cell phone and waited in the living room while my girlfriend headed to the washroom. As she made her way upstairs, I could literally feel my heart beating out of my chest. I didn't want to believe it, but my fear became a realization when I saw my partner on the TV as she entered the bathroom. My heart sank in utter terror. It became evident that the footage we had seen was of the house, which the Airbnb owner must have set up. All of our intimate moments were recorded, our most private thoughts and possessions exposed. So we immediately packed up and left, hoping no one was waiting to ambush us outside the house. As we ran toward the car, we stuffed our luggage in the back seat and drove off. However, before leaving the property, I could swear seeing someone peeking from the top window behind the curtain. That's when I suddenly remembered the creaking noise from the previous night. All this time, I couldn't help but realize that the Airbnb owner must have been living on the floor above us, surveying and recording our every move. What turned out to be a seemingly innocent getaway turned into a horrific nightmare. I felt violated, abused, taken advantage of. Reluctant to escalate the matter, my girlfriend asked me to complain to Airbnb instead of the police. When I asked her why, she said she didn't want random men from the station or investigation team to see all the private stuff we had done during our stay. Hence, I granted her request and complained to Airbnb. However, after spending hours explaining to them, it didn't seem like we were getting anywhere, so we went around in circles only to receive a full refund and an update telling us that they had banned the owner from using the Airbnb service. Meanwhile, he wasn't incarcerated because he and his lawyers claimed it was only meant to be a prank and that my girlfriend and I had no physical injuries. My girlfriend was satisfied with the outcome, but for me, I wanted to see him behind bars. Since then, I'd sweat and tremble whenever I saw a camera, forever traumatized by the experience. There are dozens of cases on the internet where creepy peeping Toms were caught hiding hidden cameras inside their Airbnb residences. But this story in particular was inspired by two disturbing Airbnb cases that are just downright terrifying. The first case was a video of a couple shocked to find that one of their TV channels was showing an aerial view of a toilet. Happened to be the same one in their Airbnb home. Whether the video is legit or not, the thought is horrific. However, the second case is what really takes the cake. A man hears noises at night in his Airbnb stay. When he checks the air vent to find out where the sounds were coming from, he sees a secret room hidden inside there. Airbnb has since been contacted for comment.
Okay, second video. Post.
This happened several years ago around the holidays, which was also my girlfriend's birthday at the time.
Scary.
I wanted to do something romantic for her and get us a nice place to stay at for a few days as a present. It was a good idea in theory. Having a relaxing getaway with just the two of us in the middle of all the holiday traveling and family visiting. Unfortunately, it didn't go as planned. My first mistake was not booking far enough in advance. By the time the idea came to mind, it was already December and everything was sold out. When I didn't have any luck with traditional hotels, I resorted to checking Airbnb. There weren't many Airbnbs available either, but I eventually came across one that was a cottage type, kind of out in the woods. It didn't have a good rating, and the host was this mid-40s decrepit-looking male, but overall he seemed harmless, and it was the only option I had. So out of desperation, I booked it. Fast forward a couple weeks later, and it was my girlfriend's birthday weekend. When we finally checked in the Airbnb retreat, the first thing we noticed was just how big it was. Aside from that, I thought it wasn't in the greatest shape, but my girlfriend was enamored with the cottage aesthetic, so I was glad she was enjoying her present. We met the host briefly at the front door. Then
You
he
don't
showed
look
us to our
creepy.
room and basically left us to our own devices. Although, as he was leaving, he mentioned something I didn't quite register in the moment, not until after everything else went down. I'll leave you two be now. You won't even know I'm here. I'm pretty good at going unnoticed. Thank you. That was weird, right?
Meh, at least we have the whole place to ourselves.
Yeah, you're right. Come on, let's check out the house. We spent the next few minutes touring the entire house, which took us a while as it was a fairly big property. Everything was decent enough to my standards, and it seemed like my girlfriend was content with the Airbnb. However, there was one problem that was very unsettling once we noticed it. On all the windows in the house, there were no blinds or curtains of any kind. There were rods above the windows which made it obvious that there had been blinds there, but they had all been taken down. There wasn't even a curtain on the window in the bathroom. Obviously, at that point, we were a little freaked out and concerned for our privacy. I texted the host and told him this was a serious problem. A few seconds later, the host responds back, more or less shrugging it off. He said that we were so far out into the woods that there shouldn't be any chance of a person coming by and trying to look through the windows. And
Hey, wanna play some video games? I know I do. I haven't seen the sun in years.
also that with all the tree coverage, none of the windows got very much light anyway. Obviously, that wasn't a satisfying response for me or my girlfriend, but we tried our best not to be worried about it so we could be focused on having a good time. We turned in pretty early that night, as we'd had a very long day. Of course, the window in our room didn't have any curtains or blinds either. I remember falling asleep with my eyes half open and looking at the snow coming down outside. For some reason, it was like I was hypnotized by the lack of curtains, and that's when I passed out. Hours later, around 4 in the morning, I woke to the sound of several notifications coming through my phone. I was very groggy and delirious, but I figured it might be important, so I forced myself to roll over and check it. It was Airbnb messaging me, and when I saw what my phone read, I couldn't believe it. Airbnb was telling me to pack all my belongings and leave the property immediately. It felt like my entire world was crashing down before me. It almost seemed like I was dreaming. But what
They didn't
made the
tell you why.
situation
Why you
all the more
scared?
disturbing was when the Airbnb advised me not to notify the host until we were gone. That's when my heart sank to my stomach. Maybe it was something that Airbnb knew about the host that we didn't. A million thoughts raced across my mind. I assumed the man had to be a serial killer or something. I turned over to my girlfriend and began to wake her up, shrugging at her until she was finally awake. I tried desperately to explain what was going on, but that's when I saw her eyes get super wide. And then, she gave the most horrific, blood-curdling shriek I ever heard.
There's someone in the window!
I turned around in horror, and that's when I saw him. It was the host, peering inside our room with his hands cupped around his face. Ah! I screamed and jumped back. That sicko didn't budge. He just stood there watching us while pressed up against the glass. Enraged, I charged at the window and banged my fist against it, nearly shattering it, saying, "Leave us alone, I'm calling the cops!" My girlfriend pulled me away from the confrontation, and we frantically began packing up all our things and got dressed. All the while, this creepy old man watched us through the window the entire time. Within a couple of minutes, we left the room in a rush. I led my girlfriend through the house, running by the kitchen to grab a blade from the nightstand. As we cautiously made our way outside, I could feel the tension.
Hold on, bro. My. I don't have no more battery, okay? Hold on. Okay, so my headset just turned off. I don't got no battery, so yeah. Okay.
Cautiously
Let's
made
just
our
keep
way
going.
outside. I could feel the tension in the air. I didn't know if the creep would
I can
pop
hear
out
from
of
my
nowhere.
monitor.
Thankfully, we didn't see any sign of him as we headed to the car. Me and my girlfriend quickly threw all our stuff in the back seat, and we got inside and locked the doors. But just as we were about to leave, the man slammed his hand on the side of my window. I frantically drove off and never looked back. On the way home, my girlfriend was already drafting a serious complaint to Airbnb, asking why
No
this guy was
police, no
allowed to host
nothing?
people in his house in the first place. The only response we got back was that they had received numerous complaints from other guests about how he broke Airbnb rules and regulations on multiple occasions. It just so happened that they revoked his status as a host while we were there. Either way, it's no mystery to me why that place had such bad ratings with that guy around. He strikes me as the kind of guy that probably has his dead wife stashed somewhere in his house. The
Ain't
story
no
was
cops,
inspired
no
by an
nothing.
incident that happened to a couple sometime last year. The couple claims that Airbnb instructed them to check out immediately and to not alert the host. In one of the messages, Airbnb stated that the host wasn't aware of the situation, making it all the more alarming. The couple then departed the house, and that's when the host reached out to them, asking them to ignore any quote-unquote dangerous allegations that Airbnb might have disclosed about him.
Oh fuck no. Hell no. Okay, the last one. This video gonna be a little bit too
This
long.
happened back in 2015 when I used to live in a 2-bedroom apartment. My roommate had recently moved out, so I was suddenly struggling to pay rent on my own. That's when I was swayed by the thought of renting out my spare room as an Airbnb on the weekends. My parents helped me furnish the guest room, and when I had guests over on the weekends, I would go over to their place and stay with them. Things were fine for a while, until the first time I rented out the room to some guy named Kenny. He was a few years younger than me and looked like an edgy incel with a wannabe rock star haircut. It was clear that he was at least a bit of a creep from the beginning, but at the time I wasn't concerned enough about who I let.
Hold on, cause why do we look the same? No. Why the fuck do we look the same? Bro. Oh fuck.
A bit
No.
of a creep from the beginning, but at the time I wasn't concerned
Bro.
enough about who I let
No
stay in my
way.
home. I knew my profile picture would probably attract a lot of men to the listing, but I
think this
didn't
is the
really
right
care.
shirt.
I was gone while the guests were
yeah,
there, so
the right
nobody
shirt.
could ever create a problem, but Kenny found a way. He would constantly text me strange things like, "What kind of soap do you use in the shower?"
Okay,
He would
nah, but for real, what kind of drug is he on? Cause not for real, like, her too, like this, like.
constantly text me strange things like, "What kind
Hell
of
no.
soap do you
How
use
he
in the
fat,
shower?"
but,
Or,
like,
"Which
muscle,
bed do you
dog.
sleep on?" It was annoying, but I knew he would be gone in a couple of days or so. But just when I thought I'd seen the last of him, he booked the next weekend immediately.
And there's
I
a
rolled my eyes about
boy's
it, not
voice,
expecting
a
this
whole
to
man's
become a
voice,
routine
and it's a
thing,
girl.
But this was
Like the
only
main
the
character in this
beginning
one
of
is
Kenny
a
being a
girl.
regular guest. In fact, once he showed up, he was basically the only guest. This meant I didn't have to worry about not getting the rental income, but it came at the cost of having to deal with every unbearable interaction with him at check-in. He got in the habit of showing up 2 hours early while I was still preparing the room for him, and he would just sit outside my front door, waiting for me to come out. At 3 p.m. sharp, the actual check-in time, I would squirm out of the door awkwardly and give him the keys, then rush out of there like I had somewhere really important to be. "Hey, where are you going? You can talk to me. I'm a nice guy." I didn't look back. I got out of the building as quickly as possible. I didn't know if the guy was mentally ill or not, but I wasn't trying to stick around to find out. But unfortunately, things got more disturbing from that point on. One night, I started hearing things while falling asleep. There would be a noise somewhere in my apartment, making me feel like I wasn't alone. I remember getting up and shuffling through the dark to check my front door. A huge weight came off my shoulders seeing that the door was still locked. I would then go back to bed assuming the noises were coming from the hallway and that I was just getting
No sé.
because I let strangers stay in my home. After this repeated itself a few times one week, I decided I needed to take a break from the whole Airbnb thing, so I made the room unavailable for a weekend. I
Booking.com.
Oh my.
stayed over by my parents' place just to make sure to completely avoid Kenny. I honestly remember feeling refreshed after not
Who are
dealing
those
with him
three
for a
people?
weekend.
I mean, I know
At
these
around
people.
9
Who are
p.m.
those
that
two people?
Sunday, I
Like,
made my
sorry.
way home and was excited to have the evening to myself. I locked the door behind me and set my things down. Then I went to the bathroom to get ready for bed. And when I flicked the switch to turn the lights on, I could see Kenny standing there, holding one of the kitchen knives. The blood drained from my face as he held it against my throat. "You're all mine now. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide."
Please don't do this, Kenny. You can stay here as long as you like.
"Don't bargain with me. I'm gonna get exactly what I want." I tried to back away, but he closed the distance between us and started to force me backwards, cornering me into my bedroom. There, I tried to scream for help, but it was already far too late. Kenny shoved me onto the bed and forced me down, holding me with one hand and keeping the knife at my throat with the other. All I could do was plead for my life, hoping he would let me go, but he didn't. I was trapped and held captive in my own apartment with a monster. I continued trying to get away, but Kenny wasn't wasn't budging, holding me against my will. After several horrendous, excruciating minutes, Kenny was done. He got up and began to rob me of my phone and other valuables, just for good measure as he bolted out of the front door. When I was able to collect myself enough to get help, I had to get out an old iPad and use it to contact my parents so they could call the police for